Hey there, it's Chris, and welcome back to the training sessions I have leading up towards the Tri-State Super, or Spartan Super, coming up later on in about 2 months, end of October. So if you've been following along so far, the last several weeks, I spent a lot of time with track, and we're going to be getting to track pretty quickly on this one. This session's not going to be done from inside. It's just been kind of threatening rain all day. So dealing with the cards I've been dealt right now, and actually I just went to sit down to record things, and we had a little power surge for about 2 minutes. So if it gets dark there, I had just enough time to go and grab my headlamp and get ready to go. It's gonna be a fun ride on this one. Hopefully the power, cross the fingers, works out fine. But if you've seen the last couple sessions I've had at the track, I've never really videotaped myself at a track before or in a running kind of environment before. Yes, I have some videos growing up back when I was in high school on the track team, but I'll be honest, I tended to watch a lot of those for like, oh, how'd I do compared to other people on the track and all that. I never actually looked at my form. And now actually looking at my form, it's not that great. So I kind of want to push this episode or this session towards ways we can go towards improving our running form. Now, odds are, I'm going to go ahead and guess 95% of runners who are out there have probably never done any kind of running drill whatsoever outside maybe a coached environment. When you're on your own, most people are never going to be doing these types of things. But if you want to take this kind of from a light jog or kind of more kind of local 5K kind of running situations into a more kind of serious running thing, you want to actually push your limits a little further, drills are going to be the way we can go to make that happen. And this week I've kind of gone headfirst into kind of exploring this world of drills. I'm going to go over a couple of the basic ones I've seen repeated over and over from other people who kind of put these out. But rather than rehash a lot of what other people have done, we're going to take this discussion afterwards into kind of when it's appropriate to use certain types. We can kind of break these down into categories, and then if you're kind of self-taught or self-training yourself here, you can kind of weed out which things can be helpful for the situation you're in, and kind of go from there and take a slightly different spin than what most other people are doing. And then, as promised in the end of the last one, I will finish this session off with the quarter-mile time trial, our repeat. Can we beat what we did the first time 2 weeks ago on that one? And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. And I'll meet you on the track in just a second. So hang tight. All right. So the first on our list here is the high knees. And that is just as we go forward. We're not necessarily going forward on this so much as we're trying to lift our knees as high as possible as we do it. We're going to kind of accentuate how we kind of can drive those legs forward. So if we go down in slow motion, you can see we're really lifting those knees as high as we can. Not necessarily going forward. You can see our feet are landing close to each other, but that's all. And number 2 would be the butt kicks over here, which is you're driving the knees forward. And the other one, this one is to accentuate the back end of your drive, where you really want to drive those legs back and lift them up as high as possible. So that's what that one can be. Next one coming up here is going to be to accentuate your knee lift even more, is you can just kind of do a little more static, lift your leg as high as possible. And we're going to go through with this. My balance, you can see, is not super great. I'm kind of towards the edge of the thing. But that's another way to get forward. Or if you want to add a little more strength kind of to this, you can drop it into a lunge after each one. And this can kind of turn, again, you can have variations on a lot of these that I'm going to be pointing out here. And one variation of this is you can turn it into a more strength exercise and have a little bit of both worlds going on with that. So once again, we have this. And then coming up next, we have just kind of a basic skip going through, which again, we're driving our knees up, only it's a little more dynamic than the first version. But again, this can have some variations as well. I've heard this called, whoa, my computer just did some weird stuff. I've heard it's called like the Kenyan skip or something like that, or excuse me, like a side skip. Essentially, you drive your leg forward, you go to the side about 45 degrees, go 90 degrees. Go forward, go kind of to the side 45, go to the side about 90. It's going to kind of help open up your hips and give a little more mobility to, your form right there. And then also to keep opening up your hips, we have the crossovers, where your right foot goes over the left, then behind the left, then over the left, behind the left, and kind of transfer back and forth. which again in slow motion over here, once we get in the screen, you can see a right leg kind of passes behind, then it goes in front, and this is going to help make your hips a little more dynamic and kind of help open them up as we go. Next one over here is we have the basic striders. This is kind of putting it all together, and this is where you really want to accentuate driving that leg out forward and pulling your other leg out back as far as possible, and it really kind of the goal is super accentuate what you're going on over there. Once we get past those, you can kind of more kind of plyometric type exercises here. Here you have like the frog jumps, frog hops, kind of put two together. It's helped build more explosive kind of power off of this. If you're going more into a sprinting kind of environment, this might be for you on that, because it's really going to help really almost over accentuate driving those knees and legs forward on that. And then another kind of plyometric one you can throw in, we have the duck walk, or I call it the MSG walk, if you've ever played Metal Gear Solid. You can kind of go through real low crawl, but again, this is more of a plyometric type exercise than it is just a running drill per se. There's kind of a spectrum of this we're going to go over real quick after this whole thing is said and done. And if we're moving into the plyometric kind of exercises, you can also think of some of the static poses we can do. Here I'm just going to do a horse stance real quick, where I kind of wish once I got in this pose that I waved my arms around or whatever a little bit. I am static on this. This isn't a screenshot. But you have this, you can kind of sitting against the wall, you can do kind of pistol squats, you can do any kind of these static poses that you just kind of hold for about a minute, 2 minutes, whatever your time frame is. I think I do 30 seconds of this, just quick kind of demonstration on here. But again, there's a range of things. There are a lot more than what I've shown on this. These are just kind of the basics you can do, but there are a lot more that we can do. Okay, so if these are some of the tools we have to work with in terms of drills and whatnot, again, you can go on YouTube and you can probably find hundreds of different channels that will show you different variations or whatnot of some of these. And I would recommend kind of going through and getting an idea of what's the broad extent of what's kind of out there. But in general, the way you're going to be dealing with these is each one, if you're kind of beginning doing these, you're probably going to spend about 20 seconds or so on each one. You kind of do a little bit of a warm-up kind of jog first, kind of get the blood flowing, get yourself a little bit looser. Then you can probably choose about 5 or so of these you might need and spend maybe about 20 seconds or so on each one. If you're just starting out, you do kind of one set. As you get better, don't lengthen the sets. Instead, add additional sets to it. Rather than do one set, you might do 2, you might do 3 sets. Because the problem is if you just extend out a set from 20 seconds, say to 30 seconds or so, if you're doing those like let's like say the high knees or the butt kicks or something like that, some of those basic ones, and you have a longer time frame, you're really going to be testing your heart more than you are your muscles. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get tired. These are going to elevate your heart rate. You're going to get a little more tired doing those, and then your knees aren't going to get as high as they otherwise would if you would take the time to pause after like that first 20 seconds, let your heart rate go down just a little bit, and then start it again. So you're going to get more out of these when you get into multiple sets by giving yourself a break in between rather than extending the length of the sets. So when are these going to be appropriate to use versus when are these not going to be appropriate to use? And again, that's going to depend on what your end goal is on this. Are you a distance runner? Are you a sprinter? Are you starting out and are very tight? Do you just want to improve your form? Are you doing an obstacle course race like what I'm kind of training for here? So you need to really find out what your end goal is on this, and then kind of find out where each individual one of these kind of drills you can do falls on the spectrum that we go through on here. So I would think in my mindset, on one end of the spectrum, we have just kind of making sure you're loose, you're not tight, and you're going to be kind of injury prevention type things. So for that, you can kind of you can hold like the high knees where you kind of hold your leg up top. You can do like some of those crossovers or some of these kind of things that kind of increase mobility on your hips and whatnot. Those are going to be really good for kind of starting out and kind of loosening you up. If you want to get a better running form on here, you might be looking at like those high knees. You can look at the butt kicks. You can look at some of those kind of more dynamic ones. Striders are going to be great kind of for that. something that can really kind of accentuate these forms that you want your knees to have. You want to be driving those knees forward. You want to be kind of lifting those legs in the back as you go. And some of those are going to be really good on that. If you want to start adding more kind of strength elements to this, or if you want more kind of explosive power, you're going from more distance running to, let's say, sprinting, you can take those high knees that you're doing for the kind of, either the holding up the high knees, just kind of the first version I showed on that, and you can really just launch yourself off the ground. Do like those, I did the skips, you can do really kind of high skips. You can really kind of push those forward. You can push into some of the kind of plyometric ones, like the frog hops or things like that, things that can really dynamically push you in. If you're looking for more, kind of getting more into the strength-based part, again, I'm doing obstacle course racing things, so this might be moving more into kind of a plyometric zone. You have like those duck walks, the frog hops. You can do some more things kind of like that. Then, and once you get past plyometric, then you start getting more into kind of just straight static strength-based kind of workouts. Whereas in my mind, these static strength workouts, again, is like focus on individual muscle group. When I'm describing plyometric type workouts, I'm generally referring to working multiple muscles at once at the same time. If you're doing like a duck walk kind of thing, that's going to be working a number of different muscles in your legs. Whereas just like doing a lunge may only work one muscle. You're going to do like calf raises or something, may only work just your calves kind of thing. So these are kind of geared more towards dynamic kind of muscle engagement where you're dealing with more than just one muscle group on each time you go. Because part of the problem we have right now is if you go online, if you see somebody says like, "Where I swear by just like these 5 things I do, and that's all we ever need to do," and each person has like their own unique set of 5 they do, you're going to be overwhelmed with so many different variations of things to do. It just, the sheer volume information you can get off the internet is super overwhelming. So before you start applying any of these things that you see on here to your own regimen, just try to figure out why you're doing some of the ones that you are doing. Don't just like grab something from somebody's site or something that I showed on here. Try to figure out what it is you want to get out of a workout, what these individual individual kind of drills are teaching your body and what they're kind of focusing on. And then from that, try to figure out which ones might be appropriate then to add into your own regimen. But again, if you're just starting out, maybe take 5 of them that kind of target what you want. Usually kind of I would think high knees, butt kicks, and striders are probably 3 of your most basic ones you're going to be adding into this, with maybe 1 or 2 others you might be throwing into the mix. Those are generally kind of the basic of the basics. And then you can always build it from there. And as you start getting more accustomed to it, you can add additional ones in there. But again, if you are getting more accustomed to these, rather than lengthen out what you're doing, just add additional kind of sets onto your thing. Do 1 set, 2 set, 3 sets. Don't make the sets longer than they already are. And that's kind of all I want to put out on that front. Because again, I'm still kind of a student at this part. I really haven't been super engaged in drill work up until now. So I'm trying to improve my own form myself. So we're kind of learning on this one together. And that said, in terms of learning through this together, let's see if I've learned anything on this 400. And we're going to jump ourselves right back to the track here. So hang on tight. All right, so here we are. We're back at the track. And as I said last time, I wanted to give this quarter-mile time trial another shot. We did really good last time. I broke the 70 seconds. And our goal is to see if we can do that again. Was that a one-off? Was that a fluke? Or is that something that's repeatable? And maybe I can even improve upon that. Now, as I said before, when you have experience, that's great, because now it gives you something to go off of, and you can kind of go from there, and you know what you can and can't get away with. At the same time, once your brain gets involved, at least in the early stages, it can sometimes get in the way of things as well. So, just to give an example here, on the first time through, I have no idea what I'm doing for this. I haven't run this race in a long time, or I haven't done it on a track in a long time. So I just went and I just did. Whatever happened, it happened. It wound up being like a 31.5 second first 200 and around a 37.5 second, second 200. So I kind of went out quick and I died at the end. So now that I know kind of what I can get away with, the brain can kind of get involved and shut things down real quick. Does this mean I need to now go a little slower on the first half, hoping I can save it on the back half? Do I not do that? Do I try to stay more relaxed on this first half, which may harm the time going through? And that there are a number of different mind games that can now play. And again, in order to do that, your body is now forcing more blood into the brain to make the decisions, which is taken away from the other stuff that might actually need it as well. So this is kind of the downside of having a little bit of experience, but not that much experience at it. So again, our goal is going to be, if we can break our 70 again, that's really the main thing I go into. I want to show that this is repeatable. If I can bring that notch down just a little bit, that would be awesome. But we're going to see how this goes. We have rain coming in soon, so I want to get this in before it rains, and then we'll take it from there. So that's all I got, and see you on the starting line. Away we go. All right, and we're off. And despite what I just said before, I did set out a very basic plan on this, and that was to hold my form as long as possible. Last time I gave up on the form around 160 yards in. This time I want to hold it at least the 200 yards so I can get past this second camera I have up here, so I can at least see what I look like when I actually have the hips kind of tilted forward and I'm driving the leaves forward on this one. So we are going through, we're at the back stretch here, and all right, we passed the 200 mark in 32.5 seconds. So at that point, I am actually a full second behind what I was last time. But I'm actually feeling like I have a lot more energy, and I'm still holding my form right now into this. So I don't know I'm behind last time, but I'm feeling a lot better at this point. Now, coming to the home stretch, I think here's where I started, like bring my heels down, but it's only 100 yards to go, and we're gonna try to finish strong on this one. So let's see if we can bring it home. We got it. 67. Right on the borderline of 67. So, wasn't a fluke. I went 2 seconds faster. Main goal is to try to keep my form at least till I passed the other camera. And I actually kept the form about 300 meters. And it kind of fell apart at the last straightaway, but we got it. We got it. 67 is definitely the fastest I've done in over 20 years. So, mid-40s, I still got it. All right, need to cool down for a bit.